Welcome back, everyone, to the Ashen Trial Season 1 here. We have a group stage matchup of Paradox versus Winter. We have Angels on the side of Paradox killing versus the Winter Survivors on the Onryo. I am Monarch. I'm joined by my co-caster, Amy, and we are starting off pretty slow so far. Angels has already found the location of their ruin, a spot that they kind of want to defend. Gonna get the jump onto Momo, but Momo has the pallet. Just gonna work straight into their face. Amy, what are your thoughts on this matchup? It can be a very slow matchup, but it can also be a pretty fast one. That's kind of just the nature of the indoor stealth matches.
Thanks for passing it on the torch, Monarch. I'm very excited to cast with you today. And I mean, looking at the sets that we have here, it's going to be one exciting day for sure. Paradox and Winter, two excellent NA teams. Paradox just recently forming with Angels on the captain, so it's pretty cool. And for the viewers at home who may not know, this is actually one of... I'm surprised that we have a Sadako set here, as this is one of Angels' really good killers. He's done... He's managed to pick this killer out on other leagues, and he's gotten always phenomenal results with Sadako. He's always seemed to have this character in his back pocket for any sort of sets. So again, I'm surprised we did decide to go on something that is known for Angels' killer, but it's all good. I mean, both these survivors are going to be very strong on the set today, and honestly, on a set like Midwich against Sadako, it is very tricky, and this is probably one of those sets where you need really high coordination.
Yeah, absolutely. When the those indoor sets really come down to the comms of she's off of me, oh, I found her here, etc., etc. Speaking of finding her, we're gonna find two tags both onto Acid and Jaden, as well as Meds over there with 3 stacks of Condemned so far. So right now, Angel's just getting these tags, not really committing to anything, although it looks like we are going to get a commit onto Jaden. Has his pallet to work around, but not the safest in the world. Have to win a bit of 50-50s to play around it. Just going to drop the pallet on top of her face, but no stun. Just looks like she's kind of trapped in this corner. Wants to really make it out to the Sex pallet, but I don't think they can make it in time. But does have the God pallet around the corner to save them in the nick of time with the little bag on top. Just to say that you did not catch me in the end. Angel's going to go back into the demanifested state. Not sure if they want to commit onto Jaden or if they want to just try and look for someone else. Maybe a TP. No, they are going to commit. Oh, this Liber Pallet's not the strongest in the world. Faked out with the demanifestation. That's going to be the first down of the match.
Wow, what an incredible start for the Survivor team here. Honestly, for a set as tight as this on Midwich with very small fillers sometimes, honestly, excellent job by Jaden in order to secure maybe a gen for the team. But as you saw, all the survivors, I believe, have gone off of gens. Yes, they have. This is one of those things about Sadako that you really have to be out for. You have to make sure that you have tapes in your hand, not giving the Sadako an opportunity to teleport to your gen and snowball off of that, especially with a map as small as Midwich. And with Sadako, we have seen before that Angels can definitely snowball this game. So honestly, I am very impressed by that first chase, and of course, the teabag a little bit earlier, which, you know, Jaden with a little bit of confidence, and honestly, maybe a little bit deserved with how he played on those fillers.
Yeah, just gonna TP across the map, find Momo working on a gen, gonna get the tag onto Momo, but now we have a really awkward scenario where everyone's injured against Sadako on an indoor map with the sloppy butcher, giving the mangle to everyone, so those resets are not gonna come out as fast as I think they want. The medical room pallet's gonna go down. That's one of the safest pallets in the entire map. Pallet that survivors want to group around to reset, but that option is no longer available as it's been thrown. Now Jaden all has to work with is the clock tower. The double pallets can be effective at stalling time, honestly, here. If you win a couple 50-50s, gonna hear the fault over, but Angels reads it, and that's gonna be a down for Jaden at the clock tower as a gen pops in the distance.
Yeah, what a beautiful down we just saw. And, you know, despite that downs being a little bit like the first one being delayed by just a bit, Sadako is one of those characters that you cannot allow to snowball. So that is why we have been seeing the survivors prioritize the TVs. Yes, we do see a reset come in, and it is a very good for Angels to be able to interrupt that, since we have one injuries against this killer mean so much for the Sadako.
Yeah, right now, Angel's ping-ponging between Meds and Momo. Momo was fully healed, but Momo cannot risk just sending it for the hook. This does give the option for Meds to come in for the unhook onto Jaden. That is going to come through, but now Jaden is the target. They are the tunnel out right now. Angels gonna use the TV to try and cut off Jaden. Do they make it? They will. Jaden's running right into a TV. That's gonna be a second TP onto Jaden. Has the power to work with, but the speed boost coming out of the TV is going to secure the down. Anyone nearby for the pallet save? No footsteps heard, no pallet save coming through. We are now down one survivor on the side of Winter.
What a beautiful showcase from Angels, showing us exactly why he is very confident on Sadako and why this pick was extremely dangerous, especially with such a demonic build. Eruption, Sloppy, Pain Res, and Ruin, all perks that are going to give you value on this killer. Pain Res coming through to delay after the first hook. Sloppy making it extremely hard for these survivors to reset, especially with TVs all around the map. Eruption to slow down hopefully in mid and late game, and a Ruin getting excellent value at the beginning there as well. I am honestly floored by the gameplay that I'm seeing from Angels right now, and it's something you're not used to seeing from Sadako, usually considered a very weak character, but on a map like Widowitch, you can absolutely see games just go in a very good direction for the killer. Very well done by Angels.
We started to snowball at the top of the mountain, and now it's just keep rolling and rolling and rolling, building momentum, building mass, as it's just going to crash at the bottom. The pressure's just built up on the side of Winter here. Only 2 survivors left, and that's another cancel on the reset. A second time that Angels has managed to find the reset and cancel it, and that's that Sloppy Butcher value coming into play. Acid was able to get fully healed, but unfortunately the Sloppy Butcher, the mangled debuff on the heal prevented Momo from getting fully healed. Now Acid, the sole member left, can they pick up all the pieces? It does look very unlikely, as a D manifest is going to come through. The M1 tag going to come in. Acid is going to take that hit on the good side, allows him a little bit more speed, can potentially get Momo off the ground, but I think it's just over for Winter. I don't see a way in which Acid like loops Angels for like 3 minutes, picks up Momo, and gets Mets off the hook at the same time. At that point, you might as well ask him to file the taxes, pick up the groceries, and pick up the kids from school all at once.
Beautiful showcase from Angels. I am so glad to see an incredible snowball, and to think that we had a 1 survivor teabagging at the beginning. The team must have felt really confident going into this match with Angels shutting it down just as quick as the game began, and I am honestly not sure how Winter is going to come back on the next set. I mean, we just saw such an insane performance from Angels on this Sadako. A very, very unusual character to face in a comp setting like this, but incredible job, and honestly, the Winter Serfs have quite an uphill battle to try and face.
This is a pretty steep win con if you are the... This is a pretty steep win con to look into. A 4K4 to get the win con there is... That's a task that is very hard to achieve. I don't know if it's even up in the air if they can get it, but we're going to take a quick break as we switch sides and see how the other side does.
Yes, we will be right back to see a very, very difficult uphill battle.
Welcome back, everyone. We are continuing our group stage matchup of Paradox versus Winter. Last time, Angels on the side of Paradox managed to get a 4K3 result on the Onryo. A pretty impressive result on this killer. So now we have flipped the sides and known as Momo. Killing against the Paradox survivor is a tough task ahead of him. I'm Monarch, I'm joined by Amy, and we are starting off pretty slow note. This time around, Momo has opted for the Corrupt Intervention to force the survivors closer to him, as well as the Undying to really prevent the Ruin from going down. Momo this time around really wants to play around that Ruin value, which makes sense when you have such a high win con to face ahead of you.
Oh, absolutely. And we're seeing a very different strategy here, deciding to bring more emphasis on the Ruin as Undying, to just keep it alive as long as possible. Before, we saw with Angels a little bit more of a long-term game plan for that match with Eruption, but we are seeing Undying just get immediately off the board. I am curious to know if any serves are working on the other totem. It doesn't seem like it, but I think they are looking for it. Knowing if they get the Ruin out of the way right now, it could be a big help for them, but Momo has a very, very tall task ahead of him to try and meet this win con.
Well, unfortunately for Momo, his ruin location is not great. That is possibly one of the most common areas. I would suspect that if you made a heat map of Midwich, that would be one of the most common areas to go. So that ruin might be going down pretty soon, especially with while being in chase with Angels, getting it a pallet out of the way. Right now, Momo is just focusing on teleporting around, keeping to his TVs. That's the ruin going down. I called it. I am a prophet. Call me the Luzin Al Gaib. But that is going to be ruin going down. Right now, Momo is just keeping around the map, trying to build up Condemn, trying to find any of the survivors they can. Corrupt is still up, by the way, but it's almost over. That Corrupt lasted the entire 2-minute timer is pretty rare to see nowadays.
Oh, absolutely. And guess what? Now with those two hexes down, this has become an even bigger hill to climb for Momo. These survivors are really not going to make it easy to get any tags, because so far we have just been seeing Momo just using the TVs to try and get mobility and maybe a couple of his power usage toward that potential Mori, but we have just not been seeing it so far. These survivors really knowing where they should be positioned to not give tags, to not give any free downs, and this is looking like a very different start to what we saw the last match. Angels immediately on the other match gaining pressure as much as possible, and we are seeing the very big difference it can make when you are familiar with this character. And oh my gosh, is this a down? No, beautifully played by the survivors, not giving the down on that filler and managing to keep up the momentum on the serve side, and most likely we are going to see potentially some good gen prog on some other maps, but Momo doing an excellent job with his game sense, deciding to use the TVs to try and get some more tags on the board.
Tag on the board indeed. Now, the state of the game has been flipped a little bit. Previously, we didn't have a single tag coming out for the entire 2 minutes of Corrupt, but now the tags are coming in. That is going to be 3 tags onto the Paradox Survivors with the same perk as last time. Sloppy Butcher, that mangled 25%. Actually, it's another 50. I don't know anymore. But that Sloppy Butcher mangled effect really gonna affect the speed at which these survivors can get the reset off. That's gonna be Angel just throwing a pallet. Another pallet stun directly on top of Momo's head. Momo just eating these like for breakfast. Another pallet thrown. As right now, I don't know if anyone's on a gen at the moment. No, they have opted for the reset between Gree and Inno. I wonder if that's also going to be onto Deco. Angel's barely missing the M1 the first time around, but then the second loop around this pallet, I don't think that can get enough distance. That is going to be a tag onto Angels as well. Momo, does he commit to this or does he TP away? He's going to opt for the TP away. Try and find another survivor elsewhere.
This is very, very fascinating indeed, because we do have a bunch of serves
Whoa,
right
the
now.
Condemn!
Yes, we do see the Condemned come in. It is quite shocking as well. These survivors really understanding that this is vital for Momo to try and get this Mori off. This is, I was going to say, so far, we have been seeing a little bit of less gen progression in favor of keeping TVs off and making sure to try and not give a free down or a Mori, but it doesn't seem to have worked out because Momo is on the verge of getting this Mori here, and this can completely turn this game around despite the really good win con that he has starting off. You cannot doubt these killers and you cannot doubt these survivors. They are showcasing why right now these are potentially some of the best NA teams.
Really fascinating gameplay coming right here. Another body block for Deco. There was one earlier from Angel to try and prevent it, but Momo using the D-manifested state to phase right through Gree here. So now they can catch up to Deco immediately, but Deco has another pallet to work around. D manifested on top of D. That's going to be Angel's back once again for the body block, and now Gree is positioned once again for the body block as well. Momo trying to use the D manifested state to just phase through. That's going to be a gen pop from Innocent, so now the win con is no longer achievable. It's only a tie con up for Momo here. Deco gonna get the tape back into the TV. The D manifested state not working to try and phase through. That's going to be Deco's Condemned fully clear. So now the Mori is off the table onto Deco. It might be on the table for someone else though. Inno gonna take a tag for this. And I would like to mention the fact that Momo's going for all these tags, but they're not a single hook stage on the board. I don't know if that is going to matter in the end if another gen pops, but we'll see.
Absolutely beautiful survivor gameplay. If you want to learn how to coordinate with the team on Midwich, then what we just saw on the Survivor side there to keep the person alive and even get the demanifested state off from the Mori is absolutely incredible. And I
Oh!
cannot believe what I just witnessed. Momo with excellent game sense and understanding exactly where Angels is going to be positioned, immediately TPs on top of him from the TV and getting that Mori down. Think about it. We worked so hard to keep Innocents alive, and we wanted to keep Angels alive because it would have probably meant we won the game with the pressure that the survivors had, and Momo completely flipped the switch in the house in order to be able to bring this game right back.
Absolutely, that kill onto Angels is very important, as now that is forced to 3v1 on the side of Paradox, but the saving grace for Paradox is very early into the match. During Corrupt, they managed to get the Ruin away even through the Undying. If the Ruin was up now, I honestly would say that this is a 4K3, but with the Ruin out of the picture, this is looking a lot more likely for the Paradox survivors to get this last gen pop that they need. This could be a tag onto Gree, everyone back once again injured. So now it's just a game of, do you really want to find a reset spot? If you do, you might run into a TV, and that's gonna be another. That's gonna be a second time that Deco's condemned state is now full. This is gonna be another time that Deco might be able to go for the Mori here. This palette was used earlier. Does Deco have anything at their disposal? I don't think so. Is another teammate gonna be in for the body block? No, that is gonna be another condemned Mori on the board. We are now in the 2v1.
Yes, we are indeed now in the 2v1, and we are seeing Gree with 80% prog on a gen. Remember, their win con is just getting one more gen here for the Survivor team, and oh my gosh, I cannot believe that Momo interrupted it. It is absolutely crucial that they got that gen done. Honestly, at this point in the game, as long as Momo confirms this down, slugs, and finds the other survivor, this is probably looking like a tie from such crazy set that we just saw.
Absolutely. Momo's strategy of, rather than going for tags along the map, is just to go for those condemned stacks is working beautifully so far. 2 condemned Moris is insane, honestly. I get that Midwich is a much smaller map, so the radius that the TV's effect is, you have a higher likelihood to affect the survivor. See, with Gree all the way. Wait, what the heck? That is a long range. Oh my god. Maybe I'm not like that much of an Onryo player, but that seems like a long range to get a condemned stack.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, this character on this map covers practically almost the entire map. I believe it is just like one corner of the map that you can hide from this killer, and that's what makes it so difficult to manage. I'm honestly surprised that this set is played on Midwich, as it's usually either Midwich or, I think before, ironically enough, it used to be played on Hawkins, but now that that map is no longer in rotation in DBD in general, we will not be seeing that map played for Onryo, despite it probably being more of a fair map for this killer. But either way, this is absolutely beautiful performance from Momo. I really cannot say that the survivors faulted too much. I mean, yes, they allowed a Mori to come through, but they defended it so hard, and honestly, it was, in my opinion, just quite unlucky that Angels was found there on the TV teleport. And again, Momo's game sense really showing. It is absolutely beautiful gameplay, and honestly, both these teams did a great job playing here. I really cannot believe what I'm seeing, and it shows why variety sets can really bring out the hype in comp DBD.
Absolutely here. Is this gen gonna pop? No, stops it right before, and now Gree is gonna be flat on his knees of in due time. On the ground with not much to work with. That's gonna be a third fully condemned person, and that's gonna be a 4K3 secured for Momo. Honestly, fantastic stuff. Honestly, good play from both teams. Angels getting that initial 4K3, but Momo fighting back. They're proving right now why these are like 2 of the top teams in NA.
It is quite fascinating as well that you say that some of the 2 most best performing NA teams, since NA has been a little bit of an interesting spot since we have basically 3 teams competing for possibly who is the best in NA right now, with Summer, Paradox, and Winter. So honestly, seeing any variety of the NA teams perform here is just so amazing. And honestly, Monarch, I know you and me are still in a state of shock, thinking that the game was basically secured in the bag with the win con that we had, but Momo basically shutting us up, showing us that he is still in, Winter is still in, and they are determined to try and take this set. That is going to be a tie on the Unreal set, and we will be right back for our next set to see more craziness.
The Ashen Trials. We are continuing a group stage matchup of Paradox versus Winter. Last time, these two teams really proved that they are two of the best teams in NA with a tie, both 4K3s on the Onryo. But we're on a much different set this time around. We have widened the map, and we have turned our short killer into a much taller one with the Doctor. We have Jaden on the side of Winter coming out here on the Doctor against the Paradox survivors. I am Monarch. I am joined by Amy as per usual. We are starting off pretty strong here with that static blast, catching at least 2 of the Paradox survivors. So now Jaden has a bit of a decision to make of who do they want to commit to. They will end up finding Angels around the main building. This will be a commit onto Angels, not opting for a shock. Angels has this rock pallet to play around, but they're gonna send it all the way to the car pallet, gonna avoid the shock. Never mind, the shock goes a bit wider than I think even Angels expected, and that's gonna be a delay, a deny on the pallet drop, but the pallet drop still comes through, but it's on the wrong side, and now Angels has way less distance to work with.
Wow, that was so tragic actually to get stuck on the pallet like that. Angel's definitely expecting the 50-50 and expecting the Doctor to just swing through that pallet, but unfortunately for Angels, this is a very quick down, especially considering it's a Doctor set. Not really what you want to see on the survivor side, and congrats to Jaden for being able to keep the composure and knowing that despite this being a little bit of a difficult set sometimes for the killer player, managing to stick with his guns and understanding where the opportunity to shock really lies for the down. And honestly, I was gonna say this is a very fascinating build too. Not really something you see on Doctor. I'm not too sure how well hexes do work on Doctor here. I'm assuming because of the things like Shotic Blast and all the information that you get from this killer that it would be very handy sometimes to try and find survivors cleansing your stuff, especially if they're forced to scream. Batteries included is also a very interesting choice, but it makes sense. You're basically, you know that in sets like this, especially with the caliber of these NA survivors, that they're going to be able to make the chases last a decent while, and getting any sort of haste to try and catch up is really vital. So it makes sense in a vacuum. We'll just have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, no, I think the most interesting part of this whole build is the fact that Jaden is not running like a Sloppy Butcher or a or even like the Xenomorph perk that makes, oh my gosh. I'm so rusty at this. But I think it's really interesting that they're not running any perk that really punishes like body blocks, which is something that you expect in a Doctor set where if your tunnel is being chased, you have a teammate come by for the hit while they are shocked. Having no perks, running no perks to really punish teams for going for that is a pretty interesting choice. But maybe Jaden is just really confident. I mean, we did see that first chase onto Angels be pretty quick for a Doctor set. We are going to find Gree hopping off of the hill to try and get a bit of a distance already created, but no, the tag is just going to come through as a third gen actually pops for Paradox. Their gen efficiency is very nice.
Oh yeah, their gen efficiency is really nice, and as we are seeing here, these survivors are going to try and get this unhooked. We did leave Angels to go second because with a down this early, unfortunately you do have to just leave the survivor on the hook in order to get the gen progress, to try and get a little bit more of what a standard Doctor set looks like. And it's going to be really fascinating to see if these survivors are able to safely unhook this, as it is possible for Jaden to still body block this. Yes, it is a 2-man save, but things can go wrong. And if you've watched top level Doc sets, you do know that sometimes a little bit of miscom can happen. Do we see this unhook? It doesn't look like we do. We decided to let Angels die there, not even attempting, just trying to get the gen prog. And this is such a curious case for Doctor set, since we are meeting technically the standard stages on a Doc set. Technically there usually is a kill at this amount if the survivors miscoordinate a little bit. So I am very curious to see how this plays out. This is not really feeling like a traditional Doctor set, especially not with these perks.
Yeah, no, I think that early down onto Angels is going to end up biting them, especially when it comes to win con of when they have to switch sides. We're going to get a reset out onto Deco and Gree, but the big static blast is going to end up revealing their positions to Jaden. Jaden going to go for the chase onto Gree here. Gree, I think, has the pallet still in this area. Yeah, it's still here, but it's down, so Gree can't really play around it as well. I think there's going to be a tag coming out. This will be a tag coming out onto Gree. And now Gree is stuck in a very very difficult position. As nope, never mind. Jaden's just gonna walk away. Nope, never mind.
And it is very good that Jaden decided to walk away, having the game sense to understand that this gen is most likely getting decent amount of proc. And you have to remember as well that the survivors have not cleansed the ruin totem, so Jaden is kind of just free to go over to that gen and knowing it's gonna stop progression no matter what. I think this is a little bit of an interesting choice for Jaden though, because we do have a excellent split from the survivor side. So Jaden probably understanding that we cannot full hard commit to someone, even though we have to. We have to at some point. It's just the question is, when do we hard commit to that survivor, since the clock is ticking. These survivors, with how their gen progression has been so far, will definitely get it down to the last gen if it is played correctly.
On the bright side here, we are seeing during this chase, see that 5% haste coming on the side. That is batteries not included value, because all these chases are happening within the completed gens. Ooh, tries to shoot around the corner, but no dice. With all these complete gens, that is going to give Jaden the 5% haste to try and catch up with these survivors. Deco going for the body block onto Gree, but now it's Deco in the chase against Jaden. Has a pal to work around the car, but can just be shocked out of it. No window to play around this time. That's going to be a down onto Deco.
Wow, just incredible stuff. And oh my gosh,
Palisade?
Ooh.
No.
No, but we are deciding to just get the hook. The pain risk coming through. Oh my gosh. That oh, excuse me. I was a little bit shocked there. That Janet near Shack was just so close to completion, about like 90% there. It's really unfortunate that pain risk came through.
Oh my god, you didn't say it on purpose, did you? If you said you were shocked on purpose,
Oh, no, I did not. I'm not really used to doing puns on stream, so I'm kind of surprised that you actually pointed that out. I guess maybe just deep down I'm feeling a little electrified from this set. So, honestly...
I'm gonna.
It is very crazy what we're seeing here. The fact that that gen was not being able to be popped is really tragic for these survivors, and we're gonna maybe see a snowball potential from Jaden here.
Saying there's a snowball on a doctor set feels pretty crazy, considering it's not a very set known for a lot of stages, or even kills, or even stages for that matter. But that being said, no, Jaden does have the snowball rolling, and with all the pain risk tokens available, a down on Inno means a huge chunk of progress away from that isolated gen that they want to push through. And that's going to be the pain risk coming in right now. Now Deco and Gree, do they go for the double reset? Without the Sloppy Butcher this time around, the reset can come out a lot quicker, but if they're in range, they are not in range. Actually, no, Deco was in range, I believe, of that big shock. That is a pretty big blunder. Now that's going to reveal Deco's position. That's going to force Gree's hand to go for either the reset onto... the unhook on the innocence, or just commit a gen to try and get that last gen popped, as now Deco's just running around this rock pallet, but only one pallet available. That's going to be the unhook onto no, oh my god, nearly misses. A near miss coming out from Jaden allows Deco a little bit extra time, and now Jaden has to drop that chase. They need to keep this pressure up, and they're just going to go back to both Inno and Gree.
I like how you pointed out, Monarch, that a snowball, and saying that within a doctor set, just it doesn't feel right, but I have no other way to describe it besides what's happening right now. You have to remember that none of the X's have been gone, so Jaden is literally just free to just keep pressuring these gens, knowing that we have 3 tags on the board. They have to play safe. They have no other option. And the worrisome part is that someone like Doctor, playing safe is so difficult because of the way that shock works. So we are going to see that the survivors are probably just going to head for a reset. No, we're deciding to actually double main. This is really interesting. I mean, if this down comes in fairly quick, or even if Jaden decides to go toward main, I don't really see how this will turn out well for the survivors.
Well, the quick down is going to come in. I think the pickup here is worth it, as you do have the pain res right there. The pain res is going to do, is it going to be fast enough to block the survivors? That is going to be a pain res onto, I believe, the main building generator. And I like to point out, Ruin is still up, and both Undying is still up, and this is really where Ruin gets most of its value. This 3v1, where the survivors have just less manpower to work with, and so every time there's a down survivor, there's a hook, or there's someone that needs to be reset, and another survivor needs to come in, that is much more pressure on the survivor side to really get this gen efficiency popping. We're gonna see the big blast around main. That is a lot. You can physically hear the progress around main. I think Jaden wants to prevent that gen from popping, but that bomb gens is gonna pop anyways. Now the batteries not included value is going to allow Jaden a little bit of extra haste to try and find a survivor lurking around the main building. And I think we have found them. I think that is, I believe that is Deco moving around the buses. This does open Inno up the ability to unhook Gree, but I'm not sure what the play by the survivors is right now.
Oh, we do see Innocence going for the unhook, and unfortunately for Jaden, not able to interrupt that in time. We are most likely going to take an endurance here for Innocence, but here's the thing. These survivors know that they cannot fully stop this hit from happening, as this endurance is going to run out soon for our Jake here. How long do we actually have? Well, it's about 2 more seconds. Oh my gosh, that is so unfortunate. That was so close to Jake being, like, it was literally like 0.1 seconds away from not being in the endurance state. Maybe Jaden miscounted, or it's also possible that someone on his comms miscounted the timer by just a bit, and it's fair enough, since you have to remember, a lot of these players have been playing for literally thousands of hours, and the 15-second of hook endurance is only fairly recent in the, like, I believe the last year or so, like, compared to what these survivors are probably used to for years, it being 10. So honestly, phenomenal job by Jaden being able to get this many stages on the board, and it's not something that you usually see from Doc. The killer on the other side is going to have an incredibly uphill battle. Paradox is going to need to pull something out of a magic hat to try and meet this performance. But we saw Momo literally do the same thing on Sadako the previous game, so it is entirely possible that these survivors are going to be able to do it, and the killer as well. So we will be right back. I am honestly very excited to see how these sets go.
Ashen Trials, we are continuing our group stage matchup of Paradox versus Winter. Last time, Jaden on the side of Winter secured the 2K8 win condition, or 2K8 against the Paradox survivors. So now we have flipped the sides. It's now Angels on the side of Paradox. 2K9 ahead of them, and the 2K8 would result in a tie if it's all 4 hooks, because Jaden did manage to secure all 4 freshies, so Angels really is looking for that 4K, that 2K9, or just 9, English, sorry. What really enabled that last time was the really quick down that Jaden had onto Angels, and now the sides are reversed. Now it's Angels getting a quick tag onto Jaden. Jaden wanted to come in for the body block against Momo, but they found themselves in a really awkward predicament where the pallet got dropped for Momo, but then Jaden was caught on the same side as Angels, and now we've brought ourselves to Shaq. The tides have turned. Yeah. Now it is Angels that needs to secure a fast down against Jaden, but Jaden does have a teammate nearby for the body block. Momo coming in for the body block against Jaden. That will just be the tag on to Jaden, and now Angels is now chasing Momo instead around Shaq. First shot's gonna come in. Now Momo can no longer make it inside of Shaq. Will Momo just be down? This is just gonna be a down onto Momo, but the pallets come in, but it's not fast enough. But will the pallet save be there? No pallet saves. No pallet saves so far. That was a really chaotic start. I'm your caster Monarch. I'm joined by Amy as always. Amy, what do you think about that start we just had?
It was explosive, to say the least. And we thought the last set was explosive, but we did just see Angels managing to get one down, most likely at 2. No, we actually hook right next to the most progressed Chen. So this is really good for Angels. He still has an incredibly difficult win condition to meet. And we did see the standard body blocks come in earlier in this set, but it wasn't enough, and it did lead to Momo, unfortunately, going down. There is a lot of tension in the air as both these teams want to be able to get this win. As remember, no matter what happens in this set, we will go to a third set because our first was a tie. So most likely, no matter what, our third set will determine what happens today. But of course, getting this win right now is still just as crucial as that third game is going to be. So you don't want to let your momentum up.
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to inform viewers that if any, whichever team wins this set, if the next set after this, which is a skull merchant, if that set is potentially a tie, then the team that won this set will take home this entire match. So this is a very important set to win. Acid gonna take the hit all the way through to get to Momo. Now Momo's off the hook. Back into chase. Momo, that tunnel out chase, has to find something to work with, but so far no pallets are found. We are going to find a pallet in this jungle gym, but Angels just has the shock, the static blast available. A very textbook case of how to play the doctor, and that's just be another down on the floor for our Momo there. No pallet save, no pallet save. No one wants to go for a pallet save this match. Pallet saves are not permitted right now. And I would just like to really quick mention the build that Angels is running. I don't know if this is standard, but crowd control with the thrill of the hunt to make it even slower to cleanse. That is an interesting combination.
I will definitely say Angels has been known to sometimes go for a little bit of a mix-up on builds. He is very much willing in his other sets to pick something interesting out of the hat rather than something traditional and potentially surprise teams with, you know, something like crowd control is really not expected on a doctor set, so it might be a little bit of a shocker. We haven't really seen value come from it so far, as we've mainly just been doing an excellent job getting our shocks down. But 2 gens off the board now, and there is a gen being progressed on main, and the survivors are also resetting. So we're just trying to get a simple reset and maybe dial back this game. This is a really interesting predicament because now with like Momo potentially on his last deathlock if nobody goes for the save, this is going to be very interesting to see if Angels is able to meet the win con at the state of the game. He will still have plenty of time because we still have 3 gens on the board, but we do know these survivors are still just as gen efficient as Paradox so far, so I'm really fascinated to see if we're able to meet it.
I would like to mention the fact that around this point last game, Angels died on the hook, but there were 2 generators remaining for Winter for Paradox. So this time around, Winter allowing herself to die at 3 gens left is slightly worse. So it's really going to depend on how the macro play is for Winter, how they play it. There's 3v1 Acid and Chase with Angels right now. Going to play around the car pallet, chaining it into the rock filler. Has the filler power to work around. Acid gonna take it wide to avoid the static blast for the first time around. Gonna end up avoiding both the blast and gonna get the pallet drop down at the exact same time. Time has been bought for Winter. Angel's just gonna abandon that chase. Now he's on to his next victim here, as that is going to be the crowd control lost. It was cleansed even through Thrill of the Hunt at max stacks. That was a lot of time taken away, but that was a lot of time taken to cleanse a totem, and that was time taken away from gens. So Angels probably knows that there's not as much pressure on gens as there potentially could be. A shock onto Jaden is going to prevent them from reaching this balance. That's going to be a nice clean tag onto Jaden.
I will definitely say the fact that out of all the hexes that could have been cleansed, the fact that it was crowd control, in my opinion, is probably very, very good for Angels here, as Ruin is really... We saw last time in the last game that Ruin came in with so much value near that end game, and I believe it will come in very, very clutch on this end game as well. Unfortunately for Angels not winning the 50s, he is just deciding to Bloodlust, which is why he's not using his power. But this is NA versus NA, so, you know, the ping is essentially very, very good for the survivors. As always, you would prefer to have better ping on the survivor side, and I cannot believe what I am seeing. Angel just managing to not be able to get this down, and Jaden showing us that he's not out of this game yet.
You know, obviously, any kids listening to the broadcast, first of all, I don't think you should. Second of all, don't gamble, but Jaden, after this match, buy a lottery card. That was a lot of 50-50 to win back-to-back-to-back. I think today might be your day to have some good luck. Yeah, that down on the Jaden happened. I don't think as fast as Angels wanted it to go out. That bought enough time for Meds and Acid to get these gens popping, or not popping, but to get a little bit of pressure onto them. As although we did see the chase interrupt one of their gens, so a little bit unfortunate there, as now the Thrill of the Hunt, I believe, has been cleansed, so now it's all up to Ruin. Ruin with no defense up as well. We might see a Ruin pop soon enough. That is going to be the unhook onto Jaden. Jaden and Meds caught between a rock and a hard place, and now they're just choosing to run into the Doctor instead, as going to be a tag onto Meds. Now both Meds and Jaden have been tagged. Jaden, I think, has just used this opportunity to run far away, as a gen in the distance pops for all of this pressure.
pressure indeed. You know, Ruin is still up, but we did manage to pop another gen. So now we have 2 gens remaining on the board, and we don't actually have anyone else working on a gen right now. Survivors opting to make the smart and safe play of just resetting, especially against the Doctor. Oh my gosh, do we find this reset spot? That is so tragic. We do find this reset spot, and a down here would be so amazing, since remember, we're just playing for stages, and stages is what we need on this board. I can't believe what I am seeing. Freshest 2 would here would be also fantastic, and Angels not giving up the momentum that he's already occurred from some of these chases.
I would like to mention the shack with the gen near it has Angels has also chosen to opt into the batteries not included in the build, shooting right through the pallet, just getting the M1 onto Acid through the shack pallet. That is a wonderful hit from Angels, and now all members of Winter are now injured. As now we're going for the big blast and trying to reveal the locations. No reset coming through, as now Angels is on Jaden's trail. As no, Angels is going to instead go for the main building. He hears the pressure through the main building. Main building has a ton of progress on it. Wants to prevent whoever Survivor. Oh no, Meds is caught in such a bad position, but the edge of the car might have saved him a little bit. No, Meds doesn't make it anywhere. Being caught in the back of that place against a Doctor, that is just a death sentence.
And we are seeing Ruin once again get incredible value, as now the fact that there is a slug right next to that gen, meaning that is going to go down, as Ruin is still on the table. Angels finding another survivor here and around mid-map is really good for him. Remember, they are forced to go for this pickup, and they are probably they just need to reset. They literally just need to reset. The issue is that saying that on paper is way easier than actually implement it. How the hell do you reset with a Doctor who gains information all the time, with Angels getting very nice chases? How do you recover from this position?
Step 1, find an apple. Probably keep him away. Step 2 is I think you really just had to not allow that initial reset position to be found. Angels finding that reset was really big, as it just kind of prevented them. Now from now on out, the Winter Survivors just couldn't get a reset on the board, and now there's only 2 members on the ground, as Jaden is hanging in the air for dear life. Acid going to be caught in chase against Angels. Angels also spotting Meds in the distance, so now all members of Winter are known. That's going to be a down onto Acid. And now Angels can just, I think, cut off Meds. I think with that 5% ace coming in from batteries not included with the shock range, can you prevent the unhook? No, you cannot, but you can still make it to the hook in general. And now Meds is just kind of cut with nothing. This pallet has already been used, and the window is not far enough to allow distance to be made. That's going to be a shot through the window straight onto Meds. And now Jaden, the last member standing. Okay, never mind.
Yes, this game has been full of ups and downs, and honestly, now there are almost no resources left. Almost everything on this map has been dropped, and against the Doctor, that's just the most like death sentence that you can ever get, as this is one of those killers where, you know, usually when there's less resources on the map, you just depend on winning 50s on windows, but with Doctor, that 50 basically turns into a guaranteed hit, and I'm really not sure how the survivors recover this. I mean, I mentioned it earlier, but now it's looking even more dire, and if Angels is able to get this down, we do know that there's no gen progress really on the board right now, thanks to Ruin, and yeah, we do go and see a pickup, and with that pickup, Angels is fully locked, knowing that this down can occur very soon, and if he does, it is almost in the bag, essentially, for the killer.
A swing through the window will secure the down onto Jaden. And Jaden being a deathlick as well, that's going to be eliminating Jaden from this match. And that's going to leave Meds and Acid in a 2v1. Right now, we have 6 stages on the board. Another kill would secure the win con for Angels, as Meds tries to go for a cheeky little flashbang to try and save Jaden. But it's all in vain. Yeah, once again, throughout... Okay. Yeah, I think Winter realizes that they're just screwed and there's nothing that they can do. Fantastic job from Angels to get the win con. They were looking at a pretty rough win con themselves, like a 2K9 against Doctor, but getting the 4K2, that's phenomenal gameplay from Angels.
Yeah, Angel's really securing it down for the Paradox survivors. I know all of them on those communications are definitely celebrating and cheering for their boy. I mean, getting this result is so incredible. I mean, think about it. This is a 4K2 with hexes on Doctor. Absolutely fantastic result. And it does show me that sometimes when you bring those variety builds, sometimes with a little bit of stroke of luck, you can definitely get it. And to think, it was not looking very good at the beginning, but we did manage to get one quick down and it all snowballed, even though that mid game was a little scary for Angels. So absolutely fantastic. Congrats to Paradox for taking it. A little bit of a celebration with the 6-7 in the hand, and we will be right back for our third set, which is Skull Merchant. Another very intriguing set.
To the Ashen Trials, we are continuing our group stage matchup of Winter versus Paradox. Last time Angels on the side of Paradox secured the Doctor set for their side. So with the Onryo set being a tie, the winner of this set is really matters, because if the Skull Merchant set ends up being a tie of some sorts, then Paradox will create the win because they won the Doctor set. If Winter really needs to pull through to win this set. We are going to see a very quick chase onto meds at the beginning there. A drone, I don't think a drone is anywhere nearby. This is just a pure M1. I hate to say it, but Skull Merchant at this point really is just a pure M1 killer. So, you know, you get to get your really good 1v1 ladder practice in. I am Monarch. I am joined by my co-caster, Amy. Amy, what are your thoughts on this match? What do you think needs to happen for Angels to really get this dub?
Thanks for passing it over, Monarch. I definitely will say, I mean, I think the best thing that you said on this match was that this is practically an M1 killer. Like, you know, it's like Trapper, like, you technically have a power, but if the survivors play well, then they're obviously just gonna not run into the trap. So, like, for this character, they're not gonna take many drone hits. They're gonna be smart about where they're doing gens, and they're gonna understand that realistically there's not too much to be afraid of. Like, right here, we do see a hit, unfortunately, because we are dodging the drone. But guess what? Now that we have drones in other spots, realistically, what can this killer do? This killer's now just forced to play M1. A little bit of haste will realistically not do anything for the Skull Merchant here.
That's going to be a first tag onto Jaden with the claw trap onto them, getting that broken status effect, playing around Shaq. Shaq Pile going to be dropped for the survivors. A very strong resource for the survivors gone pretty early into the match. Does Jaden make it back to the pallet? Ooh, the swing from Angels, but Jaden just keeps going on there. Mary Way, the second swing also coming in. And now the third swing in a row. I'm getting a little deja vu, Amy. I don't know if you remember in the first set with the bag from Jaden against Angels and then proceeded to get a 4K3. Yeah, I'm getting deja vu.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm getting deja vu as well, since it's literally the same chase that we see a T-back come in. And as you saw, Jaden did take a hindrance, and it literally did not matter. It literally did not matter. He still got his normal seconds in, because despite you getting a little bit of hindrance, against something like a Skull Merchant, where she is just so vulnerable and she has to play so hard to try and get her downs, it doesn't really matter. I mean, maybe it helps out a little bit for a little bit less distance, but we're already gonna see like 3 gens pop. Oh, unfortunate. Angels with good game sense, understanding that that gen is being progressed, and we've lost literally 2 of our hexes, and it's Momo is right now going immediately back on that gen that we saw earlier to try and complete it. This is looking very good for the survivors here.
Yeah, looking pretty good. Jaden off the hook. Acid stayed in base with Angels. What that game sense reads that Acid has, well, I guess it's not much of a game sense. You just tell that only one set of... You can do math, folks. We are going to see Acid running directly into a drone. Not that it matters too much, but what matters is getting stuck in a bit of a 50-50 spot. And Acid now has all 3 scan lines onto him, so as third, a next scan line would take him into... fully marked with a claw trap here. We hear the reset. Angels going in for the swing, but Meds is faster on the trigger. Pallet down in front of Angels. Meds. Here's a pre-drop. The good old classic comp pre-drop on top of Angels' face. Has to play around this rock filler. Winning in these 50s so far, as Angels now can only just kind of just stare at him with a drone. Like, yeah, bro. Yeah, dude, I love this killer so much.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things about Skull Merchant, the fact that she can bring people into Broken, but what does the broken matter if you're already injured? So we are seeing the survivors take body blocks here, and absolutely really well played from Meds as well, keeping his composure and managing to outplay. And oh no, we needed that down so badly, and Angels is forced to leave it. Ruin is still up, but I don't think it matters too much with these survivors, since they do know that they can play extremely safe, and they're not really worried about what Skull Merchant is gonna do to them.
Yeah, that's going to be a chase on the Asset. Asset has all scan marks, so once again with the Hinder. This time the swing rings true as Acid is dropped onto the floor, neutralized with the basic attack. As now Angels has getting their second hook of the match so far. What Angels has to play around is really the strong 3-gen. The fact that Shaq hasn't been popped is pretty strong. So they have Shaq, they have 6, and they also have 7 to work with. Oh, god damn it. I just realized what this has, man. God damn it. The Skull Merchant Killer and the 6-7 3-gen. Yep, love to see it.
I can definitely tell you that watching Skull Merchant fries our brain a little bit, as you know, it's not a very explosive set. It is very standard chases, so we are seeing Angels decide to camp this. I mean, having a gen decently progged right next to a hill hook is actually way better than what Angels probably thought was going to happen once the down came in. But either way, this is, this is turning a game from something that looked like it was, I don't expect a 4K here, but I do expect maybe a little bit more stages now that we have a hill hook.
Now Jaden is just crouching under every single drone so they don't get the scan lines. Who would win in a fight? A Brazilian billionaire with all the money in the world that haunts people for sports, or the crouch key? Who would win in a fight? We are going to see Jaden now taking that third scan line with the claw trap, but Angels does not want to commit onto this chase. They want to keep this pressure going with the camp, so they don't want to leave this spot with the hill and the Sec 7 gen, as well as the Shaq gen. Acid reaching second stage now. Almost going to be just dying on this hook straight up, as that's going to be a gen popping in the distance. Now this strong 3 gen. If Angels want to get a 4K, this is how you're gonna do it, by defending this really strong 3-gen setup that you have, which is really strong. And now we kind of see where the broken can come into effect, where now Jaden took that claw trap and now they can't be reset for a bit. So this is where the broken can come into effect, but I know what I'm looking at my screen. I still believe that this is outs.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I really do think it's outs as well. These survivors will be playing really well in chase. And I mean, they're a really, really good NA team. And we saw earlier that the drones literally did nothing in any of these chases except a little bit of hindered and broken, which did not affect the survivor who was already injured. But this is one of the few strengths of Skull Merchants that maybe we can get a broken on a healthy survivor here near the hook. But oh my gosh, that's so unlucky. The drone is literally just a couple pixels too far and too low for it to even get an injury onto Meds. This character is extremely tragic, and we're seeing the faults of someone like Skull Merchant being nerfed so hard to the point where we cannot even consistently use our power here, and we are deciding to chase Acid, knowing that realistically trying to go for someone else is a little bit of a rough spot. But Angel's thinking about going for a different serve here, but regardless, he is now put in a very, very difficult position.
Yeah, all 4 serves still on the board for Winter here, as Angel still has this really strong 3-gen, but with the 4 serve, this is said before, a 3-gen does not exist if 4 survivors are available. That just doesn't, that's not the conditions that are needed for the 3-gen to really take into effect here, as again the crouch key just coming in for Meds. Meds is also going to get the 2 claw traps at the same time. Does this end up in a down or not? I don't think so, but actually around that window, I actually don't think that Meds can make it in time. Oh, see, hey, Amy, that hinder value right there. We got some hinder value.
I'm so happy to see that Skull Merchant, out of every single drone throughout this 6-minute match, we got 1 single hinder. Props to Behavior for absolutely excellent game design. And speaking of game design, this 3-gen is actually still doing really well for Angels here, and it's exactly what you want to see on a character that doesn't have the strongest chase potential, because the drones can get a little bit of value on the gens. Yes, they cannot hit you at the gens, but sometimes survivors still have to waste time taking them off, as if they don't, the Skull Merchant can just keep pressuring by going near it, and you will eventually take some form of tag. And beautifully done by Angels. He was not winning on many 50s before, but it seems to be that the luck is coming back on his side.
Yeah, actually, I can kind of see a bit of a momentum shift here as right now the hook stages are building up, but the gens are not. Really, that's strong 3 gens. We're way past the days of Skull Merchant being known as the game of chess, the 3 gen chess queen. But the 3 gen setup like this is still pretty strong to play around. As now Jaden is on the hook. Momo actually took a scan dart in the distance, so now Momo has that Cloud Trap onto them, but Cloud Trap no more as Meds is being taken Chase, but Chase is being taken all the way into this deep, his deep 3 pocket. Very well, good macro decision by the Winter Survivors to get this Chase away from the gens, but Momo wants bigger prey. They are a big game hunter. They want to look for more. They're gonna go back to Shaq, see if they can find someone. I think the really important survivor to find right now actually might be Momo. Because if this does result in outs, then I think that the fresh state advantage for Angels, if they get all 4 freshes, could swing the difference when it comes to win condition.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I want to point out is that I think you said it even slightly before, Monarch, that this game looked really in the hands of the survivors. But one single 3-gen determines so much in comp sets, and we're seeing exactly why. Excellently well done by Angels. Just trying to get a little bit of scan lines to maybe force Acid to try and take a hindered or a broken. But we are seeing a tag there. Angels deciding to defend the totem a little bit, but we are trying to get Acid out of this game. I am very curious to see if this is going to be a fast down. Most likely not, as the survivors are coming in here for body blocks. And just deciding to get the tag. Will he go back to his 3-gen, or will he decide to commit to the chase? No, he is deciding to re-put his drones. And ooh, a little bit of undetectable coming in. Maybe Angels is trying to sneak and find that Death Hook survivor here.
Yeah, they have 2 options that they could play around. They have Jaden and Acid both on Death Hook. With this Ruin is actually getting a decent amount of value, as now there's not a lot of pressure on any of the gens remaining. So I think that Winter might want to slow the pace down a little bit. Try and slow the game down, get these resets available, and start tackling these. You really want to tackle all these gens like simultaneously, like get Shaq and 6. I'm not a coach. These guys know how to play the game, but I think that would just be pretty important for them. That is going to be a tag onto Meds. The reset to Jaden is now going to come out as Meds, once again, taking the chase into the deep 3 pocket. The very good decision. I don't think Meds, this is going to be a down on the Meds. Meds doesn't have any resources for them, and that's just going to buy time for the resets to come out for Winter.
Yeah, they definitely listened to your advice, deciding to just reset and not focus on Gen Prog anymore. I think resetting was definitely the smarter choice here, as you cannot really afford to do any of these gens injured. If you're caught in one single bad position, it could snowball the entire game. And honestly, with how many stages we have on the board currently, this is already a fantastic result, especially considering that Skull Merchant, we saw that it really only came in 1 single drone for a single chase of value, and Angel's just showing us that game sense sometimes carries harder than mechanical abilities on a killer, and honestly, phenomenal play by him. Unfortunately, will not be another tag onto Jaden. A little bit of BM on the flashlight save, double clicking. We're seeing a little bit of 2016, 2017 energy here, and honestly, this game is still keeping me on my toes. I did not expect to say that on a Skull Merchant set, but Angel's doing a beautiful job showing how to pressure on a killer that is mostly M2 with mostly M1 and a little bit of M2.
Yeah, unhook onto Meds coming out, but Angels walked all the way there. He's just walking at us menacingly with the strut of the Skull Merchant. Gonna not interrupt the reset, but immediately tagging Meds after the reset is pretty big. Momo, the body block, the bodyguard for Meds straight off the hook. Meds is gonna make it up to this pallet, but both the hit and the stun at the same time is gonna come through. Now Momo is injured, so now Angels, this is the sign for Angels. Does he commit to the fresh, or does he commit to the potential getting someone out the game? He's gonna send it for Momo, but it's not actually for Momo, actually. Bamboozled me too is just sending it for Shaq. Shaq now is at 50% progress. Oh, we're starting to see what I talked about earlier with multiple gens being pressured. Shaq at 50, 7 around, I'd say like 40%. Now the pressure's starting to mount up, but the Hinder is going to, well, I can't even say it on the Hinder. There's just no pallets here.
Absolutely, that was definitely a lack of resources there. But honestly, Monarch, you are really good at catching things for the killer. I mean, you said earlier that if we got another fresh stage on the board, then it is already such an incredible lead that our other killer player will have to try and manage for Team Winter. Do we pop this gem? Yes, it is a double, so it looks like it will probably pop. I doubt Angels will be able to stop it in time. Yes.
Oh, dude, wait. If it was Jaden and Jaden got the flashlight safe off the ground, like, that would have been really funny.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I'm actually thinking that maybe he like perfectly he could have gone for the other serve on that gen there, but he decided to go for the person with the flashlight. I'm thinking that maybe his team actually saw the flashlight earlier, right? And they probably calmed to him to not go for the survivor that did not have the flashlight, as it meant that he would not have to worry about a flashlight save.
Is this gonna be outs? I actually don't think this is outs. Yeah, because the gate's gonna be. Wait, this is not wow, a 4K 0 against the actually. They get Momo off the board. I'm sounding very unsure, but that's because I've never. Skull Merchant's not a common comp set. I do think that this is end up gonna be. I would say at least one of them can make it to a gate.
Oh yeah, they could definitely make it to a gate, all right. And I mean, even then, I can tell you right now, I have never seen a Skull Merchant set played at this level, and definitely not one that I was expecting to be 2K. And again, I really have to give so much credit to that to Angel's game sense. I don't believe this killer really, you know, if it's almost anyone else on this killer and they don't know what they're doing with the same game sense that Angels has, I don't think they'll be able to perform this good of a result. It really is Angels pulling out his knowledge out of the bag and showcasing us that no matter how bad it looks for your killer mechanically in terms of how much you can do, there is still so much on the table that you can do to pull your team together. This is going to be an incredible, this is like a volcanic level of performance for Skull Merchant, and we'll be right back to see if Winter is able to match that result.
To what could potentially be the last game of our group stage matchup of Paradox versus Winter. Last time Angels managed to secure 9 stages against the Winter survivors. So now Momo has a very steep task ahead of him of those 10 stages, with the 4 fresh secured, by the way. So that should be on a task ahead, looming over Momo's head, as we are going to see a bit of a different build this time. Angels opting for the same build as Doctor with a very hex focused build, but Momo opting for the brutal strength and batteries are included for a little bit of that chase. We're going to get a chase onto Gree right now. Gree using the crouch tech to avoid the scan lines, but I think that's going to prevent an M1, and M1 is going to come straight into his back, as Momo's going to keep the chase up. All drones still in his back pocket. Progress onto Shaq. I think that Shaq is going to be a big pressure point for the Paradox Survivors. I think Shaq is what enabled that strong 3-gen from last game. I am Monarch, as usual, joined by Amy. Amy, what do you think needs to happen for Momo to get this win con?
Oh, I'm very excited that you ask. I mean, we are seeing Brutal and Painters. Like you said, it's a very, very different build to what we just saw Angels play. And it's a little bit curious to me, because I think the plan with Brutal is to just try to get as many, like, rid of many resources on the map. But, oh my gosh, beautiful pathing from Greed. This is already off to an incredible start for the survivors of getting any sort of gen prog. I think they're just trying to get Shaq out of the way, actually, which is very, very good for them. And even though this is a pain risk coming in, I'm not sure how much it's going to benefit the killer here.
Painter is coming through. I think that you're right about the Shaq. They really want to get Shaq out of the way, as Shaq is kind of the gen that really enabled that strong 3-gen. And I also think that's going to be looming over Paradox's head to not give Momo the same 3-gen that Angels was able to play around. I think they really want to get it out of the way. Brutal Strength coming in, giving the love tap to the gen. This gen's, oh my god, we almost saw 2 gens popping at the same time, but Momo just barely cuts off Angel's gen. But that's gonna be 1 gen popping so far, as we're gonna find Inno, who took a hit for Gree earlier, but I'm honestly not sure how worth it was to take a hit, especially this early on. As does Inno have another resource to play around? Yes, they do. They will find this gen, but they're not gonna use it. They're just gonna run for the pallet. They're just gonna run for the window. And I think a little bit of, I'm not gonna say right now, but a tiny, like you picked up a patch of snow, you put it in your hand, and you like just set it on the ground. The snowball hasn't started yet, but with a gentle nudge, it could bloom.
I do agree that with a gentle bloom, that is the perfect way to describe it. It is not over just yet. And yes, these survivors are just playing for stages. I mean, it's really fascinating, right? Because we don't really have like a really good metric to determine how well how well or bad a Skull Merchant game is going, because we really have no way to realistically know what this character would look like multiple times as many other sets do. 4 injuries on the board at 3 gens is actually very, very impressive for Momo. I have to give credit to him as well. He's showcasing that even though he has a tough win condition, he's going to stick to his guns and play the M1 as best as possible. He's using, if you notice, he's using less drones than Angels is overall, but he is getting more tags than Angels did. It seems like both of them just kind of have a different idea of what kind of game plan they want to go as. I think Angels leans more into the power a little bit of Skull Merchant, but Momo leans in more to the standard M1 chase. So it's very cool to see how these two very good NA players play very differently from each other, even on the same killer, with not much to go off of.
Curious, the Skull Merchant using her power less is getting more tags. I wonder what could be the catalyst of this. I wonder. We're gonna get down onto Deco here. Another gem popping. I didn't catch when it popped, but it was probably that hill gem that Angels was working on. Another pin was coming through. This pace right now is a lot faster than Angels' previous game, because Angel catching Greer on that corner is a very nice catch. Angels' game actually started off pretty slow, but gradually built up into the snowball that we had at the end, whereas Momo's snowball is kind of like it's gaining momentum right now, but like a tree in the way could definitely block it, as we see Gree having to force to play around this tire filler, not the strongest in the world, especially if you don't win the 50-50s. Hold on a second, Amy. I think this might potentially be a 4K with gens remaining. Is that crazy to say?
I mean, with all tags on the board, I don't think it's that crazy to say, but all that these survivors need to do is get a good reset and more gen pressure. You have to remember that at the end of the day, it is still Skull Merchant, right? Like, no matter how many tags you have on the board, you can never capitalize off of it in a super explosive kind of way, just because you're forced to travel the map. That's why characters like Blight inherently will always be so powerful, because the fact that you can take a bunch of tags and then literally get like 2 or 3 downs literally within the span of 1 minute on good slugs is what makes those killers so strong. I mean, we're seeing Innocence die in the corner of the map, and see, look, this is what I mean. Momo is now forced to walk across this entire length of the map to get back to the injured survivors here, and honestly, it's still looking pretty good for the survivors in my opinion. Despite the tags, if they are able to still play safe around these pallets, they can realistically just keep the momentum up on the gens, and Momo is going to be forced to walk long distances across basically what is the Sahara Desert.
I'm sorry to talk while you were talking at the same time. That's not good. Gree getting caught out in the middle of nowhere with no resources. Now you're forcing the rest of the team to play 3-1. You still have a gen left to do, but like, this is starting to look a little doable actually for Momo to get a 4K here, because it's not just a 4K that Momo's playing for, it's also to playing for the 10 stage win con. Actually, yeah, just as 10 stage, because 9 stages would be a tie, because Angels also secured all of the fresh hooks. And actually, this is going to be very interesting. With that kill onto Gree, I think what Paradox are going to decide to do, I feel like they're going to go for the reset. I feel like that's a very safe play to do right now. I feel like you want to slow down the game a little bit and try and tackle these gens once everyone's healthy and in position.
Right, absolutely. And here's the thing: even though we do see a death on that, just basically with 1 gen remaining, the thing is that why I still feel confident that the survivors can do this is because you have to remember that we literally saw earlier in the sets today where it was like this exact same scenario 3v1 versus stronger characters like Wesker, and we were still able to see another gen pop. You just have to remember the survivors don't get free tags, play extremely safe. Then Momo was forced to walk long distances to get literally anywhere on the map, and all we need is literally like 2 good chases, and this gen will pop. Of course, we are playing for stages, but stages against an M1 is probably one of the best things that you can secure, especially with such strong serves, such as Paradox's serves.
Yeah, I think Momo is kind of being squeezed thin a little bit, as this 3-gen is not as close as Angels is. But speaking of Angels, Angels is going to take the Claw Trap, and now Momo's on their tail. Momo, I think it gets the fast down onto Angels. That's really big, actually, as it allows the pain resistance to come through, and that's going to be another fresh hook on the board. As Momo doesn't really have a pain resonance nearby. This is another thing with an M1 killer is you can get it really fast down, or like you can get it down, but if you not have a pain res nearby, then you just have to trek across the Sahara Desert to even reach one. That's green pain res coming in, preventing a potential generator pop for Winter. I mean for Paradox.
I know it's been quite a long day. It's a little hard to keep track of sometimes with who is who because I mean personally I can definitely say that these matches have really kept us both on the edge of our seat, and honestly I get sometimes a little deja vu, as you mentioned earlier, about what's been happening on these sets as well. It is very curious to see that these survivors are, in my opinion, maybe not playing as safe as they could. Another tag there is quite tragic. They really cannot afford to give tags in this 3v1 scenario, and we're just giving them left and right. So we're seeing survivor mistakes on both sides here at this Skull Merchant set. And I definitely have to say, it's definitely probably unfamiliarity with the characters, since, like, you know, when do you get to practice the set? It's not a set that is usually played in comp. Excellent flashlight there from Angels, and we are still seeing him try to commit. No, he's deciding to leave. This is a very curious position. Do we pop the gen? Yes, we do. There is still 2 survive. Oh, no, never mind. Another tag for Innocence, but that is an excellent body block. And yeah, remember, all they need is outs. They literally just need outs, and they will be able to win this set.
Actually, if you look, if you do a little bit of mathematical arithmetic calculation, I'm pretty sure if Innocence just gets out the gate, that's the win, because that's 3 stages secured for Paradox. So they gotta start. I think they gotta guard Inno like crazy, because I think right now, if Deco and Angels both get out, but Inno is still left in the trial and gets caught by Momo and gets hooked, that would end up being a tie, but that's still a win for Paradox. And yeah, Inno at the gates, all the stages leaving. That's going to be Paradox taking the win in not only the Skull Merchant set, but the set in general with those outs.
Wow, congratulations to Team Paradox for managing to pull through, despite having a little bit of a rough mid-game there with some very, very good tags from Momo. I am floored by the performances of both teams today. I have to give credit as well to Momo for doing his best to try and secure with a character that's just not played in general. I mean, how do you realistically go about this set when every other set has so much tips, advice, and more traditional gameplay in their sets compared to something like Skull Merchant? You have nothing to go off of. You're trying to build this game strategy basically off of literally no evidence. So again, shout outs to both teams for playing phenomenally well. Paradox will be taking the win here, and unfortunately it is going to be a loss for Winter. So 2 very good NA teams doing their best to try and secure their win. Honestly, I am so happy that we got to see the set live. It was originally not planned to, but getting to see it live, I think, is going to be such an amazing experience for the viewers at home as well. So we are going to close it off for today. That is literally the last of all of our matches today here on Ashen Trials. Oh,
10 p.m. 10 p.m.
10 p.m. Oh, do we actually have a match at 10 p.m.? If we do, I appreciate.
Memories versus Ego.
Oh, yes, you're very correct. Thank you for catching that, Monarch. Either way, I would still like to say thank you, since that will be the last of me casting for today. Monarch, do you have any final closing words?
I was just say this was really fun to cast, and stick around, folks, because this is not the end of today. After this, we're gonna take a short intermission, as we will have a match at 10 p.m. of a matchup of Memories versus Ego. So stick around. The bloodshed at the Ashen Trials is not over just yet.